Sarah held the white envelope with trembling hands. Sitting on the cramped sofa of her new apartment in the city, she stared at the court stamp that made the end of everything official. 2 years of marriage summarized in cold papers and distant signatures. The apartment was small, much smaller than the house where she had lived with Mark, but it was all she could afford on a teacher's salary. The bare walls echoed the silence that had become her constant companion since the separation. She didn't cry as she opened the envelope. There were no tears left. Mark had made it clear in the final months of their marriage that she wasn't enough. The word infertility rang in her mind like a life sentence. The diagnosis had come like a bolt of lightning out of a clear blue sky during routine exams, a rare condition that made pregnancy impossible. The doctor had explained it delicately, but to Sarah, every word was a knife. She still remembered Mark's expression when she broke the news. First, disbelief, then contained anger, finally, coldness. The conversations about adoption were brief and one-sided. Mark wanted biological heirs, someone to carry his blood, his surname, without question. He spoke of lineage as if they were European aristocracy, and not a middle-class couple from the suburbs. Sarah tried to argue that love builds families, not just genetics, but her words fell on deaf ears. In 6 months, Mark was sleeping in the guest room. In 8, he asked for a divorce. In 10, she was packing her bags. Sarah tucked the envelope into the drawer of the coffee table and stood up. The apartment was too quiet for a Sunday morning. Through the window, she saw families walking down the street, children running ahead of their parents. She looked away. She needed to keep busy. Work had always been her refuge, and Monday was right around the corner. The elementary school where she taught was traditional, with over 50 years of history in a prestigious neighborhood. There, surrounded by children, Sarah managed to forget for a few hours the emptiness she carried. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was Sunday. Who would be calling? When she saw Mrs. Higgins, the school principal, on the caller ID, she frowned. In 10 years of teaching, she had never received a call from the principal outside of school. Hours. Good afternoon, Sarah. I apologize for bothering you on a Sunday, but I need you to come to the school today. It's urgent. Mrs. Higgins' voice held an unusual tension. Sarah felt a knot in her stomach. Had she done something wrong? A parent complaint? Has something serious happened, Mrs. Higgins? Not exactly serious, but delicate. I prefer to explain in person. Can you come at 3 o'clock? Sarah agreed, hung up, and stared at the phone. The rest of the morning dragged on in speculation. She changed clothes 3 times before deciding on a simple blouse and jeans. It wasn't an official meeting, but she didn't want to look sloppy. The school was empty when she arrived. The main gate was locked, only the side door was open. Her footsteps echoed down the silent hallway, so different from the usual noise of school days. Mrs. Higgins was waiting in her office, accompanied by Valerie, the guidance counselor. Both wore serious expressions. Sarah, thank you for coming. Please, sit down. The teacher settled into the chair facing the principal's desk, hands clasped in her lap to hide her nervousness. I'll get straight to the point. We have 5 children, enrolled here whose father is facing a very difficult situation. They are the children of Robert Sterling. The name meant nothing to Sarah. Mrs. Higgins continued. Robert Sterling is a successful tech entrepreneur. He has been a widower for 3 years. His wife passed away suddenly, a brain aneurysm, leaving 5 small children behind. The twins, Matthew and Luke, are 10. Lily is 8. Peter is 6. And the youngest, Sophie, is 4. Sarah listened intently as Valerie opened a folder containing school reports. In recent months, all the children have shown a significant drop in performance. Matthew and Luke, who were always exemplary students, are becoming aggressive with classmates. Lily isolates herself during recess. Peter cries frequently. Sophie has had panic attacks at drop-off. Mrs. Higgins sighed deeply before continuing. We've spoken to the father several times. He is completely overwhelmed. He's tried hiring nannies, psychologists, tutors, but nothing has worked. The children reject anyone new. The turnover of staff in his house is enormous. No one lasts more than 2 months. Sarah still didn't understand why she was there. Mrs. Higgins finally revealed the reason. Robert asked for our help to find someone special, not just a tutor for academic support, but someone with an educational background who can offer real emotional support, someone who understands grieving children, who has patience, sensitivity. I thought of you immediately. Me. But Mrs. Higgins, I'm just a teacher. I'm not a psychologist. You have something that academic degrees don't teach. Genuine empathy. I saw how you handled little Julie last year when her parents separated, how you welcomed Michael after his grandfather passed away. You have a gift, Sarah. The words touched a sore spot. Sarah felt her chest tighten. A maternal gift, but without children of her own. The irony was cruel. I don't know if I'm the right person, she hesitated. At least meet the father. Talk to him. He's coming here tomorrow at 5 p.m. Can you join the meeting? Sarah took a deep breath. Part of her wanted to refuse, to protect herself from another situation that would remind her of her inability to have children. But another part, the part that had led her to teaching in the first place, felt called. 5 children needing help. All right. I'll be here tomorrow. Leaving the school, Sarah walked slowly through the neighborhood streets. The late afternoon city light was soft, the sky tinged with orange. She passed an ice cream shop full of families. A father lifted his little daughter up to choose a flavor. The scene made her look away again. At home, she tried to distract herself by grading papers, but her thoughts kept returning to the next day's meeting. Who was this Robert Sterling? What would it be like to raise 5 children alone? The pain of loss combined with the weight of responsibility must be crushing. In a way, she understood the pain of feeling incomplete, of carrying a void no one else could see. She brewed some tea and sat on the tiny balcony of her apartment. Night fell over the city with its characteristic noise of traffic and lives unfolding. Sarah closed her eyes and allowed herself to think about the possibility. 5 children. 5 opportunities to make a difference. Maybe, just maybe, this could fill a little of the void Mark had left when he deemed her insufficient. On Monday, classes were a blur of automatic activities. Sarah taught math, coordinated a science presentation, mediated a conflict at recess, all with her mind partially elsewhere. When the clock struck 5, her heart raced. She headed to the principal's office with measured steps, trying to control her anxiety. Mrs. Higgins received her with an encouraging smile. Valerie was already there, as was a man Sarah assumed to be Robert Sterling. He was standing, looking out the window, hands in the pockets of impeccable dress slacks. When he turned, Sarah had to make a conscious effort not to show surprise. Robert Sterling was attractive in a way that contrasted with the exhaustion stamped on his face. He must have been around 35, with dark, slightly unkempt hair and deep brown eyes marked by obvious dark circles. There was a rigidity in his shoulders that spoke of months, perhaps years, of accumulated tension. He dressed well, but his clothes seemed a size too big, as if he had recently lost weight. Robert, this is Sarah Miller, the teacher we spoke about. He extended his hand. The grip was firm, but Sarah felt an almost imperceptible tremor. His eyes met hers, and for a brief instant there was a mutual recognition of pain. 2 people carrying burdens too heavy for their shoulders. Pleasure to meet you. Mrs. Higgins spoke very highly of you. His voice was deep, controlled, but with an underlying weariness he couldn't completely hide. They all sat down, and Robert began to speak. Robert took a deep breath before starting, as if gathering strength to verbalize what he had been carrying alone for so long. Sarah observed every detail of his expression, the way his fingers drummed nervously on the table, the way he bit his lower lip before speaking. My wife, Emily, passed away 3 years ago. It was sudden, without warning. One day she was there, laughing, playing with the kids, and the next day she was gone. The words came out, mechanically, as if he had told that story so many times he had lost the emotional connection to them. A brain aneurysm. She was only 32. Mrs. Higgins and Valerie remained in respectful silence. Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. Losing someone so young, so suddenly, leaving 5 small children. In the beginning, I thought I could manage. My company is large, I have resources, I can pay for the best help available. I hired nannies with excellent references, renowned child psychologists, specialized tutors, but nothing worked. He ran a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration. The children don't accept anyone. The longest a nanny stayed was 2 months. Most don't even last 3 weeks. Why do you think that happens? Sarah asked softly. It was her first intervention in the conversation, and Robert turned his full attention to her. Fear of being abandoned again, I believe. They lost their mother without warning. Anyone new who enters their lives represents a risk. And when these people leave because they can't handle the pressure, it confirms their fear. He sighed heavily. They are trapped in a cycle of rejection and loss. And you? How are you dealing with all this? Sarah's question was direct but gentle. Robert seemed surprised. Few people asked about him. Everyone always focused on the children, as if he were just a provider of resources, not a person also in mourning. I survive, he said finally. I wake up, work, try to be present for them, go to sleep late, wake up early, and repeat. I don't have energy for much beyond that. My company has been running on autopilot for months. My partners are starting to worry. But how can I focus on business when my children are falling apart? Valerie intervened, showing the school reports. Robert already knew the data. Falling grades, behavioral problems, social isolation. He listened with a tense jaw, every word a reminder of his failure to keep the family together. I need someone who is more than an employee, Robert said, turning specifically to Sarah. I need someone who truly cares, someone willing to face the initial hostility, the meltdowns, the loyalty tests they will impose, someone who understands that this isn't a 9-to-5 job. It's a mission. Sarah felt the weight of those words. He wasn't offering a common job. He was asking someone to enter the shattered life of his family and help rebuild it. It was frightening, and at the same time, strangely compelling. I would like to meet the children before making any decision, she said, and see what the home environment is like. If you allow me, of course. Robert seemed relieved by the answer. It wasn't an immediate refusal like so many other professionals had given upon hearing the scale of the challenge. Of course. When can you come? How about tomorrow after school? Around 6? Perfect. I'll send my driver to pick you up. Sarah shook her head. I prefer to drive myself if you don't mind. That way I have the freedom to leave when I think it's necessary. A tired smile appeared on Robert's face. Already setting boundaries. That's good. Most people I hired were afraid to contradict me. The meeting ended with Robert writing down the address for Sarah. He lived in a gated community in the wealthy suburbs. As she left the room, he stopped and turned to her. Thank you for at least considering it. Most people run when they hear about 5 traumatized children. There was a raw sincerity in his voice that touched. Sarah, I haven't accepted yet, she reminded him gently, but I promise I'll come tomorrow with an open mind. That's all I can ask. That night, Sarah could barely sleep. Her mind swirled with possibilities, fears, hopes. 5 children. She had always wanted to be a mother, and fate was offering a chance to mother 5 at once, even if they weren't biologically hers. But was she ready? Could she handle their pain without falling apart herself? The next morning, she dressed comfortably but appropriately. Jeans, a simple blouse, flats. She didn't want to look too formal for the kids. During the workday at school, she found herself observing her students more closely, imagining what it would be like to deal with 5 at the same time, each with their own wounds and needs. At 6 o'clock sharp, she parked her modest sedan in front of the imposing gate of the community. The security guard checked her name on the list and cleared her entry. Robert's house was impossible to miss. A 3-story mansion with a sprawling lawn and a pool. The modern architecture contrasted with the visible neglect. The grass needed cutting, there were toys scattered across the driveway, a soccer ball forgotten on the path. Before she could ring the doorbell, the door opened. Robert was more casual, in jeans and a t-shirt, but still carrying that exhaustion in his eyes. Punctual, I like that. He smiled slightly. I'm warning you, the house is a mess. The housekeeper quit 2 days ago, and I haven't managed to hire another one yet. I didn't come to inspect the cleaning, Sarah replied. I came to meet your children. He led her inside. The living room was spacious and luxurious, but there was a layer of domestic chaos everywhere. School backpacks thrown on the sofa, drawings scattered on the coffee table, a trail of socks down the hallway. It was the trademark of a house with many children and little adult supervision. They're in the playroom. I tried to prepare them for your visit, but Matthew made it very clear he doesn't want to meet any more strangers. He grimaced. Those were his words. Sarah felt a pang of apprehension, but kept her composure. Hurt children react with aggression. She knew this from years of experience. The playroom was enormous, with shelves full of toys, a large TV, and comfortable sofas. 5 children were distributed throughout the space, each in their own world. 2 identical boys, the twins, were playing video games with closed expressions. A girl with long hair was curled up in a corner, reading a book too thick for her age. A smaller boy was putting together a puzzle alone. And a little girl with golden curls was playing with dolls, talking to herself. Kids, this is Sarah. She came to visit us today. The silence was deafening. The twins didn't even look up. The girl looked up from her book briefly before returning to reading. The boy remained focused on the puzzle. Only the youngest turned, watching Sarah with huge, curious eyes. Robert was visibly uncomfortable with the cold reception. Sarah, however, wasn't intimidated. She walked to the center of the room and, to everyone's surprise, sat on the floor. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I came here because your dad told me you guys are an incredible family, even if things are tough right now. We don't need you, one of the twins, probably Matthew, shot back without taking his eyes off the screen. Or anyone else. We're fine alone. I understand. It must be tiring to have new people showing up all the time wanting to help when you didn't even ask for help, right? That caught his attention. Matthew turned, surprised that she understood. The middle girl, Lily, closed her book slowly and watched Sarah cautiously. Are you going to leave when you get tired of us too? The question was like a blade. Robert closed his eyes, clearly hurt to hear his daughter verbalize that fear. Sarah took a deep breath. Honesty. These children deserved honesty. I don't know the future, Lily, but I know that if I stay, it will be because I chose to stay, not because your dad is paying me. And if I leave someday, it won't be because I got tired of you. The puzzle boy, Peter, looked up for the first time. Do you like puzzles? I love them. Which one are you making? It's a landscape with mountains. It has 1,000 pieces. Sarah moved closer and sat next to him. Can I help? Peter hesitated, then pushed a few pieces toward her. You can look for the ones with blue sky. For 15 minutes, Sarah worked on the puzzle in silence, only occasionally talking to Peter about the pieces. Gradually, the tension in the room began to subside. The youngest, Sophie, approached timidly with one of her dolls. Can you do her hair? Mine never looks pretty. Sarah took the doll carefully. Of course I can. How do you want it to look? Sophie sat next to her, so close their shoulders touched. Sarah began to comb the doll's hair while Peter continued with the puzzle on her other side. Lily closed the book completely and watched the scene intently. The twins still feigned indifference, but the video game volume was lower, as if they wanted to listen to the conversation. Do you have kids? Sophie asked with the devastating innocence of small children. Sarah felt the question like a punch, but kept her hand steady on the doll's hair. I don't. Why? The girl insisted. Sometimes things just don't happen the way we'd like, Sarah answered with careful honesty. But I like children very much. That's why I became a teacher. My mommy liked children too, Sophie said, her voice getting lower. She was going to have more babies, but then she went away. The silence that followed was heavy. Robert, who was watching while leaning against the wall, clenched his fists. Sarah continued combing the doll's hair, giving Sophie time to process her own words. I'm sure your mom loved you all very much, Sarah said softly. And I know it must be very hard when someone we love goes away. Did you know my mom? Lily asked, her voice thick with contained emotion. I didn't. But your dad told me she was a special person. She was, Lily confirmed, and for the first time her eyes shone with held-back tears. She used to read stories to me every night. Now, nobody reads anymore. I can read to you if you want, Sarah offered. What kind of stories do you like? The girl hesitated, then picked up the book she was reading. It was an edition of classic fairy tales, very advanced for her age. Sarah reached out her hand and Lily, after a moment of indecision, handed over the book and sat next to her. Sarah began reading aloud, changing her tone for each character. Sophie snuggled against her on one side, Lily on the other. Peter continued with the puzzle, but clearly listening. Even the twins paused the game. After a few minutes, Luke, the quieter twin, turned completely. Do you know how to play soccer? I know a little. Why? We never have anyone to play with. Dad works a lot and doesn't have time. Robert felt the accusation like a stab, but before he could defend himself, Sarah responded, I bet your dad would like to have more time. Being a dad and a mom at the same time must be pretty hard. Luke considered this, then nodded slowly. Matthew, however, remained resistant. He stood up abruptly. Whatever, you're going to leave like all the others. Come. On, Luke. Let's go to our room. But Luke didn't move. For the first time in a long while, he was comfortable with a strange adult in the house. Matthew realized the betrayal and left, slamming the door. Sarah didn't react to the outburst. He has every right to be angry, she said calmly. He's already met a lot of people who promised to stay and didn't. There were 13, Peter said quietly. I counted. 13 different people since Mommy went away. The number echoed through the room like a funeral toll. 13 failed attempts to fill the void left by their mother. Robert lowered his head, ashamed. Sarah stayed for another hour. She read more stories, helped with the puzzle, listened to Sophie talk about her dolls. When she announced she needed to go, the reaction was immediate. Are you coming back? Sophie asked, grabbing her hand. If your dad wants me to, and if you guys want me to, yes. I want you to, the little girl said firmly. Peter and Lily nodded. Luke shrugged, but didn't say no. Robert walked Sarah to the door. On the way, they passed Matthew's room. The door was closed but loud. Music could be heard playing inside. He suffered the most, Robert explained. He was very attached to his mother. He witnessed when she collapsed. He was the one who called me asking for help. He was only 7. Sarah felt her heart squeeze. Poor boy carrying that trauma. He needs time, and someone who won't give up on him. Do you accept then? Robert's voice held an almost desperate urgency. I need to think. I don't want to promise something I can't keep. These children have suffered too many broken promises. When can you give me an answer? Tomorrow. I'll reflect tonight and let you know tomorrow morning. That's fair. But before I go, I need to establish something. If I accept, it won't just be as a hired tutor. You need to understand that I'm going to get emotionally involved with these children. I'm going to love them, worry about them, fight for them. I can't do this job halfway. Robert looked her in the eyes, and for the first time, she saw genuine hope there. That is exactly what they need. Exactly. That night, Sarah barely touched the dinner she made. Sitting on her small balcony, she watched the city lights while her mind replayed every moment at Robert's house. 5 broken children, an exhausted father, a family trying to survive an unimaginable loss, and her, a woman marked by infertility, being called to be a mother to 5 at once. The irony didn't escape her. Mark had rejected her for not being able to give him biological children, and now she had the chance to mother 5 children who desperately needed a mother figure. It wouldn't be biology. It would be choice. It would be love built day after day, not given automatically by blood. But was she strong enough? Matthew would clearly reject her for a good while. There would be crises, sleepless nights, moments where she would question her decision. What if she wasn't enough? What if she failed like the 13 before her? On the other hand, Sophie's eyes asking her to come back, the way Lily had leaned on her during the story. Peter's vulnerability sharing his puzzle. They were starving for love, for presence, for someone who wouldn't leave. Sarah picked up her phone and typed a message to Robert. "I accept. When do you want me to start?" The reply came in seconds. "Tomorrow? I know it's fast, but Monday is a holiday, and we could spend the day together, you all getting to know each other better." Sarah looked at the phone screen. There was no turning back after this. It was a leap of faith, a dive into the unknown. Her fingers typed before reason could stop her. Tomorrow is perfect. What time? 9 in the morning. We can have breakfast together. I'll be there. Thank you, Sarah. You don't know how much this means. But she knew. She saw it in the way he spoke of his children, in the pain in his eyes, in the contained desperation. She was receiving a chance to heal not just the children, but perhaps herself too. The next morning, Sarah woke up early. She chose comfortable clothes and packed a backpack with some materials she imagined might be useful. Children's books, educational games, art supplies. On the way to the suburbs, she stopped at a bakery and bought fresh muffins and donuts. Robert opened the door still in pajama pants and a t-shirt, hair disheveled and dark circles even deeper. It had been a rough night. It was written on his face. "Matthew had a nightmare," he explained as he led her inside. "Woke the whole house screaming. Took hours for him to calm down." "Where is he now?" "In his room, refusing to come out. Said he doesn't want to see me and certainly not you." Sarah put the bag of pastries in the kitchen. "Can I try talking to him?" Robert hesitated. Might be a terrible idea. He's very angry. Or it might be exactly what he needs. Someone willing to face him even when he pushes everyone away. "All right. It's the second room on the right upstairs." Sarah climbed the stairs slowly, heart racing. The door to Matthew's room had a handwritten sign in red marker, "Do not enter." She knocked softly. "Go away." Matthew's voice was hoarse from crying. "Matthew, it's me, Sarah. Can I come in for just a minute?" "I said go away." Sarah sat on the floor of the hallway, back against the door. "Okay, I won't come in, but I'm going to stay right here outside if you don't mind." Silence. Then, angry footsteps, and the door yanked open. Matthew was in pajamas, eyes red and swollen, hair messy. "Why don't you leave, like everyone else?" "Because I promised I wouldn't," Sarah replied calmly, still sitting on the floor. "And because I know you're angry and scared, and it's okay to feel that. You don't know anything about me. I know you were very attached to your mom. I know you were there when she passed. I know that must be the worst thing that ever happened to you. And I know you're afraid I'm just another person who's going to leave and leave you guys alone again." Matthew stood in silence, eyes filling with tears he fought to hold back. She promised. She would stay forever. She said she'd never leave us. But she lied. Sarah stood up slowly and faced Matthew. "Your mom didn't lie," she said firmly. "She didn't choose to leave. She was taken from you, and that is completely different. It's the same thing. She's not here anymore. You're right, she isn't. And nothing I or anyone else does will change that. But do you know what can change? How alone you are in that pain. I'm not alone. I have my brothers and sisters and my dad. And they are incredible, but you are all drowning together. You need someone from the outside to throw a rope and help pull you out." Matthew wiped his tears with his arm. "And you think you're that person? You barely know us." "No, I don't think anything, but I'm willing to try. And do you know why? Because I've already felt like nothing I did was enough. I've been rejected for not being what someone expected. I know how it hurts to feel incomplete." The boy studied her with suspicion. "What happened to you?" Sarah took a deep breath. This was a line she wasn't sure she should cross, but honesty seemed like the only path with this boy. "My husband left me because I found out I can't have children. He said I was defective, insufficient, that he needed someone who could give him a real family." Matthew blinked, processing. "But you're a teacher. You have a bunch of students. I do, but it's not the same thing as having your own children, right? At least that's what my ex-husband said. Sarah's voice trembled slightly. So when your dad asked me to meet you guys, I was scared. Scared of not being good enough, of not knowing what to do, of you guys rejecting me. And you came anyway? I came. Because sometimes we need to be brave even when we're scared. Something shifted in Matthew's expression. The anger began to give way to curiosity. Are you really going to stay? Even when I'm rude? Even when Sophie wakes everyone up crying in the middle of the night? Even when Peter breaks things by accident and Lily goes days without talking to anyone? Even then. But I need you to understand one thing. I am not here to replace your mother. No one will ever do that. I am here to be something else. Someone who cares, who stays, who is present. Matthew stood in silence for a long moment. Finally, he turned and went back into his room, but he left the door open. It's a start, Sarah thought. When she went downstairs, she found the other children already awake in the kitchen. Sophie ran to hug her. You came! I thought I dreamt it yesterday. Robert was trying to make breakfast, but the kitchen looked like a battlefield. Burnt eggs, spilled milk, charred toast. He looked at Sarah with an embarrassed smile. I'm not exactly a chef. Sarah laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Let me help. Kids, who wants to make pancakes with me? Me! Me! Sophie jumped excitedly. Over the next few minutes, the kitchen transformed into a chaotic but joyful space. Peter measured ingredients with mathematical precision. Lily read the recipe aloud. Luke beat the batter with enthusiasm. Even Matthew appeared in the doorway, watching from afar, but not participating. Robert leaned against the counter, watching the scene with something that looked like amazement. How long had it been since he saw his children like this? Laughing, interacting, working together on something simple and everyday? When the pancakes were ready, everyone sat at the table. It was cramped, noisy, and messy. Sophie spilled juice on her shirt. Peter insisted on cutting his pancake into perfectly square pieces. Lily read passages from her book between bites. Luke told bad jokes that made everyone laugh anyway. And Matthew, though quiet, was there, sitting at the table, eating. Sarah looked around and felt something strange moving in her chest. Belonging. Purpose. After breakfast, Robert had to make some business calls. Sarah proposed an activity. How about we play a game, everyone draws or writes, about a good memory with the family? Why? Matthew challenged. Because sometimes we forget the good things when we spend too much time thinking about the bad ones. Reluctantly, the children agreed. Sarah distributed paper and colored pencils. Sophie drew the whole family at the beach with a huge sun and blue waves. Peter drew a giant puzzle they did together. Lily wrote about when her mom took her to buy her first book. Luke drew a soccer game in the yard. And Matthew, after looking at the blank paper for a long time, drew his mother reading stories to them before bed. When Robert returned and saw the drawings spread across the table, his eyes filled with tears. It had been a long time since he saw his children remembering their mother without pain, but with love. They needed that, Sarah said softly, when the kids went out to play in the yard. They needed to remember she existed, that she was real, that her love is still here even if she isn't. How do you know so much about grieving children? I don't know that much, but I know children need permission to feel all emotions, not just the acceptable ones. Robert looked at her with an intensity that made Sarah blush. You're amazing. Do you know that? I'm just a teacher trying to do the right thing. You are much more than that. The moment was interrupted by Sophie screaming from the yard. Sarah and Robert ran outside. The girl had fallen and scraped her knee. She was crying, more from shock than pain. Sarah knelt beside her, examining the wound. Let's clean this up and put a really pretty Band-Aid on it, okay? Sophie clung to her, burying her face in Sarah's neck. It hurts, Sarah. I know, sweetie. But it will get better, I promise. Robert watched the scene. The natural way Sarah held Sophie. how the girl allowed herself to be comforted. It was the first time in years he saw his youngest accepting comfort from someone other than him. That night, after a day full of activities, the children were exhausted but happy. Sarah helped Robert put them to bed. Sophie insisted that Sarah tuck her in. As she arranged the blanket around the girl, Sophie held her hand. "Will you be here tomorrow?" "I will." "And the day after tomorrow?" "Then too." "Forever?" Sarah hesitated. "Forever is a long time, Sophie, but I can promise I'll be here as long as you guys want me to stay." "I want you to stay forever." After all the children were asleep, Sarah and Robert sat in the living room with cups of tea. The house was finally silent. "Thank you for what you did today," Robert said. "It's been a long time since I've seen them like this. They are incredible kids. They just needed attention. You have a gift, Sarah. This isn't just attention, it's love." The word hung in the air between them. Sarah looked away, uncomfortable with the intensity of the moment. "I should go. It's late. Stay a little longer. Please. I rarely have adult company." Robert's voice held a loneliness so deep Sarah couldn't refuse. They talked for hours. Robert spoke about Emily, about how they met in college, how she was full of life and dreams. Sarah shared about her failed marriage, about the pain of infertility, about how she felt disposable. "You are not disposable," Robert said vehemently. "Your ex-husband is an idiot who doesn't know what he lost." "Thank you for saying that. I'm not just saying it. I'm seeing it. Today, in one day, you did more for my children than 13 people in 3 years." It was almost midnight when Sarah finally stood up to leave. Robert walked her to the door. On the way, they passed the living room where a photo of Emily sat, a beautiful woman with a radiant smile surrounded by the 5 small children. "She was beautiful," Sarah said. "She was, and she would have liked you." He looked at the photo with melancholy. "She always said she wanted me to be happy if anything happened to her. We never imagined it would happen so soon. I'm sure she's proud of how you're raising her children. I don't know if I'm doing a good job. Most of the time I feel like I'm just surviving. That's all we can do sometimes. Survive until we get strong enough to live again." Robert held her hand, a simple gesture but loaded with meaning. "I'm happy you accepted staying." "Me too." As Sarah drove back to her apartment, she realized something fundamental had changed. For the first time since the divorce, she felt needed. She had purpose. 5 children needed her, and she was discovering she needed them too. The following week established a routine. Sarah arrived in the morning, had breakfast with the family, helped with schoolwork, organized activities, prepared meals, and stayed until bedtime. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah saw subtle but significant changes in each child. Matthew was still the most resistant, but he no longer treated her with open hostility. Sometimes he even asked for help with math. Lily started sharing her favorite books and talking about her fears. Peter included her in his increasingly complex puzzles. Luke invited her to play soccer in the yard, and Sophie simply stuck to her like glue, following her all over the house. Robert watched everything with growing gratitude. The nightly conversations after the kids slept became the favorite part of the day for both of them. They talked about everything, from philosophy to cake recipes, from politics to childhood memories. The connection between them deepened every night. It was during one of these conversations, 3 weeks later, that Robert touched on the subject both had been avoiding. "Sarah, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "How do you deal with it? With the infertility? With knowing you'll never have biological children?" Sarah took a moment to answer, choosing her words carefully. "In the beginning, it was devastating. I felt like I had failed as a woman, you know? Like my body had betrayed me. Mark didn't help. He made me feel defective, incomplete. He was a jerk," Robert said with contained anger. "He was. But in a way, his rejection forced me to rethink what it means to be a mother. It's not about genetics or pregnancy. It's about presence, love, the daily choice to be there for someone." Robert fell silent, processing. Emily always wanted more. Kids! She talked about having at least 6. But after Sophie, the doctor recommended waiting a bit. She had had some complications in delivery. We never imagined we wouldn't have time for more. You have 5 incredible children. She left a beautiful legacy. She did. He looked at Sarah with an intensity that made her heart race. And you are helping keep that legacy alive. You are healing them in ways I never managed to. You are being too hard on yourself. You are a wonderful father. I am a father trying not to drown. There's a difference. The air between them was charged with electricity. Robert reached out and touched Sarah's face gently. Thank you for everything. Sarah felt her heart race. His proximity, the gentle touch, the dark eyes full of emotion she couldn't name. Would it be wrong? He was still grieving. She was his employee. There were 5 vulnerable children in the middle of all this. I should go, she whispered, but didn't move. You should, Robert agreed, but didn't pull away either. The moment was broken by the sound of footsteps coming down the stairs. They pulled apart quickly. Lily appeared in the living room, rubbing sleepy eyes. I can't sleep. I had a bad dream. Sarah opened her arms automatically, and Lily came to sit on her lap, even though at 8 she was already getting too big for it. Want to tell me about the dream? I dreamt you were going away and never coming back. The girl's voice was choked up. Sarah hugged her tight. I'm not going away, sweetie. I'm here. But what if you get tired of us? What if we're too difficult? You aren't difficult. You are human. You have feelings, fears, bad days. Everyone does. That doesn't make you too much. Robert watched the scene with a tight heart. Sarah had a natural ease for saying exactly what the children needed to hear. Come on, Lily. I'll tuck you in again and read a story until you fall asleep. Upstairs, Sarah read until Lily fell asleep, then sat by the bed for a few more minutes, just watching. That girl carried so much. She felt different from her friends for not having a mother, feared showing weakness, feared bothering her already overburdened father. When she went downstairs, Robert was washing the tea mugs. She sleeps very heavy, doesn't she? Sarah nodded. She feels she needs to be strong all the time, doesn't allow herself to be a child. Like Matthew, he also put himself in the role of protecting his siblings, of being strong for his dad. They need permission to be fragile, to cry, get angry, be scared, without feeling like they're disappointing you. I never wanted them to feel that way. I know, but they see how much you suffer and want to alleviate it. It's too big a weight for children. Robert sighed deeply. You're right, as always. Sarah smiled. Not always, but I observe a lot. It's what teachers do. The atmosphere between them shifted again, returning to that previous tension. Robert dried his hands and moved closer. Sarah, I need to be honest about something. Okay, she replied, heart pounding. I feel something for you, something that goes beyond gratitude. I know it's complicated. I know maybe it's too soon after Emily. I know you work for me, but I can't pretend it doesn't exist. Sarah swallowed hard. I feel it too. But I'm scared, Robert. Scared of ruining what I'm building with the kids. Scared that if it doesn't work out between us, I'll lose them too. And if it works, and if it doesn't? They stood in silence, the mere distance between them seeming impassable and non-existent at the same time. Can we take it slow? Robert suggested. See where this leads without pressure? How would that look with 5 kids watching our every move? He laughed, a rare and beautiful sound. You're right. Privacy is a strange concept in this house. Maybe we should focus just on them for now. Make sure they are really okay before complicating things. Robert nodded, though disappointed. You are wise and patient. 2 things. I am not. You're learning to be. That night, Sarah went home with conflicting feelings swirling in her head. There was undeniable attraction between her and Robert, but there was also responsibility. 5 children who were starting to trust her, to open their hearts. Would it be selfish to risk that for a romance that might not work? The next day, the children noticed something was different. Sophie asked why Sarah was quiet. Matthew commented she seemed distracted. Even Peter noticed she was handling the puzzle mechanically. "Sarah, are you okay?" Lily asked with concern. "I am, sweetie, just thinking." "About adult things. Boring things?" "Sometimes, but nothing you need to worry about." Robert was acting strange, too. More serious, less present in conversations. The children, sensitive to mood changes, got apprehensive. It was Lily who finally confronted Sarah after dinner, when they were alone in the kitchen washing dishes. "Did you and my dad fight?" Sarah almost dropped the plate she was drying. "What? No. Why do you think that?" "You guys are being weird. You don't talk like before. Dad keeps looking at you when he thinks no one is looking, and you turn all red." Sarah didn't know whether to laugh or hide. That girl was too observant. "We didn't fight," she assured her. "We're just thinking about some things." "What things?" "Complicated adult things." Lily dried her hands and looked at Sarah with impressive seriousness for her 8 years. "If you guys like each other, it's okay. I won't be mad." Sarah was speechless. "How? You? I see how my dad looks at you, the way he used to look at my mom in the old photos, and I see how you look at him. And it's okay. My mom wouldn't want him to be alone. Forever." "You are very wise for your age. You know that?" Lily shrugged. "When bad things happen, you learn fast." Sarah knelt to be at the girl's height. "Your dad and I like each other very much, but we're afraid of rushing things and ending up hurting you guys. Know what hurts more? Seeing you two sad. Before you arrived, the house was sad. Then you came and the house got happy. Now it's all weird again." The child's wisdom was devastating in its simplicity. Sarah hugged Lily. "I'll talk to your dad, okay? We'll sort this out." That night, after all the children were asleep, Sarah asked to speak to Robert on the porch. The air was cool, the starry sky rarely visible near the city. "Lily knows," Sarah began. Robert widened his eyes. "Knows what? About us, or about whatever this is between us?" "How?" "She's observant, and she said something that made me think. She said we were making the house sad again by acting weird with each other." Robert ran a hand through his hair. "She said that?" "She did. And that she wouldn't be mad if we liked each other. That her mom wouldn't want you to be alone forever. My 8-year-old daughter has more emotional intelligence than I do." Sarah laughed softly. "She's special. They all are. So what do we do? I think we try. Carefully, slowly, but we try. Because pretending it doesn't exist is doing more harm than good." Robert turned to her, eyes shining in the dim porch light. "I'm afraid of losing you if it doesn't work. You've become essential to this family." "And what if it works? What if it's exactly what we all need?" He held her hands, interlacing their fingers. "I never thought I'd feel this way again. After Emily, I thought that part of me had gone with her. It didn't go," Sarah said softly. "It just fell asleep for a while, and it's waking up now. Can I kiss you?" Sarah nodded, and when Robert's lips touched hers, she felt she was finally home. The kiss was tender, full of unspoken promises and shared fears. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "So we're doing this?" Robert asked. "We are. Slowly, carefully, but we are." In the following days, the change in the house was palpable. Robert and Sarah no longer hid the looks. The casual touches, the secret smiles, the children reacted in different ways. Lily seemed satisfied with herself for having been the catalyst. Luke and Peter didn't seem to care much, as long as Sarah stayed there. Sophie was euphoric, telling everyone Sarah would be her new mom. Matthew was the most complicated. He watched everything with suspicion, constantly testing. One afternoon, when Sarah was helping with homework, he exploded. "You're only here because you like my dad. You don't really care about us." Sarah wasn't shaken. "Matthew, I am here because I care about the 5 of you. Your dad is a bonus, not the main reason." "Liar. Everyone always leaves. You're going to leave too." His anger was a mask for fear. Sarah understood that. "You're testing to see if I'll give up when it gets hard. But I won't. You can be mad, you can challenge me, you can try to push me away. I'm going to stay right here." Matthew crossed his arms, eyes shining with unshed tears. "Why? Why do you care?" "Because you deserve it. You deserve someone who stays, who fights for you, who doesn't give up when things get tough." He finally crumbled, crying like he hadn't cried since his mother left. Sarah hugged him tight, letting him release years of contained pain. Robert appeared in the doorway, saw the scene, and had to lean against the frame to not fall. Seeing his oldest son finally allowing himself to be vulnerable was liberating and devastating at the same time. When Matthew calmed down, he looked at Sarah with red eyes. "Do you promise? Do you really promise you won't leave?" "I promise, unless you guys kick me out, and even then I'll try to stay." He nodded slowly, still not completely convinced, but wanting to believe. 2 weeks later, Robert had to travel for work. It was just 3 days, but it would be the first time he'd be away from the children since Emily passed. He was visibly anxious. "I'm going to cancel the trip," he said the night before. "No, you're not," Sarah replied firmly. "Your company needs you, and the kids will be fine. I'll be here." "Sarah, it's 3 whole days. What if something happens? What if they panic?" "Then I'll handle it. You need to trust that I can take care of them." "I trust you. It's just that I've never been away." "I know. But they need to see that the world doesn't fall apart when you leave. That there are other reliable people." Reluctantly, Robert agreed. On the morning of the trip, the children reacted differently. Luke and Peter just waved by. Lily hugged her dad tight. Sophie cried a little, and Matthew stayed quiet, watching. "I'll be back Friday night," Robert promised. "Sarah will stay here with you." "Are you sleeping here?" Sophie asked Sarah. "If you guys want me to." "I want," the girl answered immediately. The first 2 days were calm. Sarah established a comfortable routine. Breakfast together, school, homework, playtime, dinner, bedtime stories. The children adapted well. Robert called every night to talk to each one. But on the 3rd night, Sophie had a terrible nightmare. She woke up screaming, calling for her mother. Sarah ran to the room and found the girl in total panic, inconsolable. "Mommy, I want my mommy." Sarah picked her up, rocking her. "I know, baby. I know you want her. She was here. I saw her. But then she went away again. It was just a dream, Sophie. Your mom isn't here, but she loves you. Very much. Wherever she is. Why did she go away? Why did she leave me?" The question tore Sarah's heart. "She didn't want to go, sweetie. She never wanted to leave you. Sometimes bad things happen that no one can control." "But I need her. Who's going to be my mom now?" Sarah felt tears running down her own face. "You will always have your mom in your heart, but I can be here for you, if you want. Do you promise you won't go away like her?" "I promise I'll do everything in my power to stay always. I can't control everything, but I promise my choice is to stay." Sophie clung to her with desperate strength. "Don't leave me alone." "Never." Sarah stayed in Sophie's room all night, holding her while she slept. The next morning, she found Lily in the doorway watching. "Did you stay with her all night?" "I did." Lily came in and sat on the bed. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "If you and my dad stay together for real, are you going to be our stepmom?" The question was loaded with fear. Stepmothers in fairy tales were always villains. "I don't like that term much," Sarah replied honestly. "If your dad and I stay together, I'd like to be just someone who loves you guys. I won't try to be your mother because you already have a mother. But I can be someone who cares, who is present, who chooses you every day. What if you get tired, if it's too hard? Lily, every relationship is hard. Every family has problems. But the difference is that when you love for real, you don't give up just because it's hard. You fight. Do you love us? The direct question left Sarah breathless. Yes, I love the 5 of you. Very much. Lily threw herself into her arms, crying. I love you too. I don't want you to leave ever. I won't. When Robert arrived Friday night, he found a scene that stopped him at the door. Sarah was in the living room surrounded by the 5 children, Matthew finally allowing himself to sit near her, Luke and Peter competing for her attention, Lily reading aloud, Sophie sleeping on her lap. It was the perfect image of a family. How was it? He asked. We had some tough moments, but we survived, Sarah replied with a tired smile. After the children went to sleep, she told him about Sophie's nightmare, about the conversation with Lily. Robert listened to everything in silence. They love you, he said finally. For real, it's not just trust or gratitude anymore. It's love. I love them too. Sarah, he took her hands, I'm in love with you, completely, irrevocably in love. And I know it's fast. I know we have a lot to figure out, but I can't pretend anymore that it's just attraction or convenience. You brought life back to this house, to me. I'm in love with you too, she confessed. And it's scary because I have so much to lose. But for the first time since the divorce, I feel like I belong somewhere. They kissed, and it was different from the first kiss. It held promise, commitment, future. 3 weeks later, on a sunny Saturday, the children asked Sarah to arrive earlier. There was something special planned, they said mysteriously. When she arrived, the house was decorated with balloons and streamers. The children were dressed formally. What's going on? It's a surprise, Sophie shouted, pulling her into the dining room. The table was set with fine china, lit candles, flowers in the center. Robert was in a suit, nervous and smiling. Sit down, Sarah, Lily asked, pulling out a chair. Confused but touched, Sarah sat. The children positioned themselves around the table, each with a piece of paper in hand. Sophie started, reading her words carefully written with Lily's help. Sarah, you made our house happy again. You play with me and do pretty hairstyles and hug me when I have nightmares. Peter was next. You help me with puzzles and don't get mad when I take too long. You listen to me. Lily cleared her throat, emotional. You let me be a child again. You gave me permission to feel things without being ashamed. You are the first person since my mom who makes me feel safe. Luke smiled. You play soccer even though you're bad at it, and laugh when I tell bad jokes, and you don't treat me differently from Matthew just because I'm quieter. Finally, Matthew. He was visibly nervous, hands shaking. I was very rude to you in the beginning. I tested you every way I could think of. But you stayed. You didn't give up on me, even when I tried to push you away. You taught me that I can still trust people, that not everyone leaves. Sarah was crying openly. Robert stood up and knelt beside her. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Sarah, you entered our lives when we were all broken, each of us carrying pain that seemed impossible to heal. You didn't try to fix us. You just loved. Loved with patience, with kindness, with presence. He opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. I know you can't have biological children, but you already have 5 children. Children who chose you, who love you, who need you. I know it's fast. I know we have a lot ahead of us. But I'm sure of one thing. You are the person I want by my side, raising these children, building a life. Will you marry me? Sarah looked at the ring, then at Robert, then at the 5 children watching with hope in their eyes. 5 children who weren't born of her, but who were hers in every sense that mattered. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. The children exploded in celebration. Sophie jumped into Sarah's arms. Lily and the boys hugged her in a group. Even Matthew allowed himself to smile openly. Now are you our real mom? Sophie asked. If you guys want me to be. We do, they all answered in unison. But that night, when the children slept, Sophie appeared again in Sarah's room, now permanently installed in the house. "Sarah, can I love two mommies?" The question was so pure, so honest. "Of course you can, sweetie. The heart is big enough to love many people. But I won't forget my first mommy. Never. She will always be your mom. I'm just someone who also loves you and wants to take care of you." "That's good," Sophie said, satisfied, "because I love both." Robert, who was listening from the door, felt his chest tighten. Sarah looked at him and smiled. Together, they put Sophie back in bed. In the living room, Robert picked up a photo of Emily, the same one that had been on the wall forever. "I think she would like you. You have the same kindness she had, the same way of making children feel loved unconditionally." "I hope to live up to it," Sarah said. "You already are, for a long time now." The wedding was set for 3 months later, enough time for everyone to adjust to the new dynamic. It was an intimate ceremony in the garden of the house, with only close family and dear friends. Mrs. Higgins was there, proud to have been responsible for uniting those two souls. The children had central roles. Matthew and Luke walked Sarah to the improvised altar. Lily carried the flower bouquet. Peter carried the rings on a velvet pillow. Sophie was the flower girl, throwing petals along the path. When Sarah and Robert exchanged vows, they promised not just to each other, but to the 5 children watching them. They promised to be a family, with all the imperfections and challenges that would bring. "Today we are not just uniting 2 people," the officiant said, "but creating a chosen family, chosen by love, not by blood, chosen by presence, not by obligation." At the party afterward, while dancing with Robert surrounded by the children, Sarah had an epiphany. Mark was wrong. She wasn't defective. Her infertility wasn't a curse, but perhaps preparation. Because if she could have had biological children, maybe she never would have found these 5. Children who needed exactly her. Maybe she never would have met Robert. Maybe she never would have discovered that family isn't defined by genetics, but by the daily choice to love even when it's hard. Sophie pulled her hand. "Mom, can I have more cake?" The word mom sounded like music. "Yes, you can, sweetie." Matthew approached, still a bit shy with public affection. "Thank you. For everything. For staying even when I tried to push you away." Sarah hugged him. "I'll always stay. Promise." Lily joined the hug, then Peter, then Luke, then Sophie. Robert wrapped everyone in his arms, a mountain of people hugging in the middle of the flowering garden. "We are a weird family," Lily commented. "The best weird family," Robert corrected. In the following months, there were adjustments, challenges, difficult moments. Sarah learned to navigate tantrums, sibling conflicts, night crises. She learned that being a mother didn't mean being perfect, but being present. Robert learned to share responsibilities, to trust, not to carry everything alone. The children continued processing the grief for their biological mother, but now with adequate emotional support. Sarah never tried to replace Emily. She kept photos of her around the house, encouraged the children to talk about her, celebrated her birthday as a day to honor her memory. On one of these celebrations, a year after the wedding, the children asked to do a ritual. Each one wrote a letter to the mother who had passed. Sophie drew a family with 2 mothers in the sky, one watching over them and another beside their father on earth. When they read the letters aloud, there was no sadness but gratitude. Gratitude for the time they had with Emily. Gratitude for Sarah arriving when they needed her most. Gratitude for learning that the human heart is capable of loving multiple people in different ways. Matthew read last, his voice steady despite the tears. "Mom, you will always be my first mom, but I wanted you to know that Sarah takes care of us the way you would. She loves us for real, and I think you chose her for us, from where you are. Thank you for taking care of me when you were here, and thank you for sending Sarah when we needed someone." Sarah cried. Robert cried. All the children cried, but they were tears of healing, not pain. That night, after everyone slept, Sarah and Robert sat on the porch as they did every night. She rested her head on his shoulder, watching the stars. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Choosing a ready-made family instead of trying to form your own?" "Never," she answered without hesitation. "This is my family. Maybe not in the traditional way, maybe not the way I imagined when I was young, but it's mine. They are mine, and I am theirs. I love you, Sarah, for everything you are, for everything you did for us. I love you too, and I love each of those 5 humans sleeping inside, even when they're impossible." Robert laughed. "Especially when they're impossible." Sarah's journey from a woman broken by infertility and rejection to a mother of 5 children wasn't linear or easy. There were days she doubted, felt overwhelmed, questioned if she was strong enough. But on every one of those days, she looked at the children's faces and found strength she didn't know she possessed. She learned that motherhood isn't defined by the capacity to generate life, but by the daily choice to nurture, protect, love. She learned that family is built in 1,000 small moments. Band-aids on scraped knees, comforted nightmares, supervised homework, shared laughter, dried tears. And above all, she learned that sometimes what looks like a devastating loss is actually preparation for something greater. Her infertility led her to divorce, which led her to that small apartment, which led her to the availability to accept Robert's challenge, which led her to 5 children who needed exactly the love she had to give. Fate, she realized, has mysterious ways of fixing what seems broken, of transforming pain into purpose, of proving that true love transcends genetics and social expectations. And while she stood there, on the porch, beside the man she loved in a house full of children who were hers in every sense that mattered, Sarah finally felt complete. Not because she had filled a void, but because she had learned there never was a void, only space waiting to be occupied by the right people. The end. Dear listeners, we hope Sarah and Robert's story touched your hearts. This narrative reminds us that family is not defined by blood ties, but by daily choices of love and presence. If this story brought tears, smiles, or reflections, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. Every day we bring unique stories that celebrate the complexity and beauty of human life. Share in the comments if you believe that love can heal wounds that seem impossible to heal. Do you have a story of a chosen family you'd like to share? We are eager to read your experiences. Until the next story.